Another year is fast approaching, and of course, we would like to show you more. If you can remember our November episode, we already featured the recent international activities of our school, the achievements of the science, English, and sports department. Now, finally, to represent one of the most inspiring and active organizations at GRI Arani, we will have Mr. Ulixes Guinto, the chairman of the Supreme Secondary Learner Government, to walk us through their journey and recent accomplishments this 2024. After that, we are going to witness the conversation of our International Affairs correspondent, Ms. Christine Jaecee Capati, with Mr. Shawn Patrick Higgins as a bonus international collaboration of our school. Once again, Rizalians, join us as we relate with more people, amplify voices, and share these relevant stories with the community. All of this magnified under the Spotlight by the Rizalite. Okay, finally, Rizalians, we are now with our chairman, Mr. Ulixes Guinto, para hatiran tayo ng maiinit at interesanting balita mula sa SSLG Department. So, Mr. Yuli, kumusta ka naman?
Maayos naman po at nakakapaglingkod naman tayo ng maayos sa ating mga Rizalian at yung kung ano man ang ating pinamumunuan at kung ano man ang magaganap na proyekto nitong buong taon ay magiging maayos at maayos kami sa opisina namin.
So, simulan na natin agad yung kumustahan. Speaking of paglilingkod sa ating mga kapwa Rizalians, kumusta naman yung mga nakakaraang buwan? Or how was the first few months of your leadership sa GRI?
So, maayos naman. Maayos naman yung flow, yung mga pagdidisiplin namin sa loob ng school, yung mga project namin na nagagawa simula October hanggang ngayong December ay nagiging maayos ang flow ng tatapos namin ng mga project at ang pagdidisiplin namin sa loob ng school. Yun.
So, based on that, we can see naman na talagang active, or talagang nagiging consistent yung activeness ng SSLG sa bawat taon na nagkakaroon ng mga panibagong leader, panibagong mga regulations, at panibagong projects. And speaking of projects again, pero doon tayo sa proseso. Sa proseso tayo ng mga pagpapatupad ninyo na mga regulasyon, na mga panuntunan dito sa school. What are the challenges na encounter mo na personally?
Para sa akin, simula kasi grade 10 ako'y PO, SSLG, no?
So, kilala na po natin si Ulix bilang isang veterano na sa paglilingkod dito sa ating paaralan. So, kumusta naman yung mga challenges na yun?
Marami na po akong na kasalamuhang challenge tungkol sa pagpapatupad ng ating handbook dahil kung saan doon talagang maraming transferi na dumadating sa atin. Sila ay normal din na estudyante na dapat mong pasunurin.
And they're not that familiar with our student handbook.
Po, dahil sila ay galing sa ibang school at a-adapt nila ang ating culture na kung saan talagang pagdating naman sa discipline ay napakahigpit natin. Dahil ang gusto natin, simula dito sa loob hanggang paglabas nila sa ating paaralan ay makita sa kanila ang tatak Rizalian.
Yes.
Yan po ang dapat makita sa kanila. Yun po, at hindi po magsasawa ang SSLG sa pagpapatupad ng ating maayos at butihing gumawa ng ating handbook ay ating susundin hanggang sa una at dulo ng ating school year ay implement natin yan.
And so far, nakikita naman ba natin yung effects nito sa ating mga kapwa estudyante at Rizalians?
Nakikita naman natin. Kumbaga ako sa 100%, ito ay nasa 88% na ng pagsunod sa ating pag-implement ng mga rules and regulation dahil sa katunayan nga, ang mga SSLG natin ay duty tuwing Monday hanggang Friday, 6:40 a.m. hanggang 7:30 a.m. Yun po ang duty nila para po masunod lamang ang ating school uniform, ang ating behavior, pagpasok at paglabas ng ating school. At kapag katapos ng 7:30 a.m., kapag ang recess naman ay nagagawa rin nila ang duty nila sa buong araw ng school.
So, ayun, Rizalians, tulad nung nabanggit ni Ulix, yung pagbabantay sa entrance po ng school natin, ng SSLG officers, ayun po yung sila po yung nakikita natin na nag-good morning sa atin sa umaga, na, nalalapitan ka naman na pupunahin ka lang naman ng konti kapag may mali, 'di ba? Para ma-correct naman natin, tama ba?
Tama.
At tulad nung sinasabi mo na after that 7:30 duty, meron pa silang mga responsibility on campus na ayun naman po yung ginagawa nila, yung mga pagroronda, mga room to room, kasi na-experience din po namin yan. Minsan kapag free time, lunch time, bibisita po sila sa mga classroom and then you would check our IDs,
Para
our
malaman din namin na
uniforms.
safe kayo sa loob ng room at walang anong aberya ang mangyayari sa inyo dahil ipinangako namin na gusto namin maging ligtas kayo sa loob ng school at iyon ang gagawin namin hanggang kami ay nakaupo.
Okay, Rizalians, narinig natin yung mga past activities mula sa ating SSLG officers or SSLG department. Ngayon, alamin naman natin yung newest project. Kasi alam ko meron naririnig ko yan. At matunog yan ngayon sa ating school. So, Chairman, ano ba yon?
Buti natanong mo, Heidi, no? So, dadali na lang kita sa aming SSLG office para makita at mapag-usapan natin ng mas maayos yung mangyayari at gusto nyong malaman. At para malaman na rin ng ating mga Rizalian kung ano ang susunod na mangyayari.
Gusto ko yan. Bibisitahin natin ang office ng SSLG at makikita natin doon ang mga trabaho na ginagawa nila sa ngayon. So, let's go!
Tara.
Okay, Rizalians, pagkapasok ko kasi kanina dito sa SSLG office, I didn't expect what I saw, which is yung ganito karami ng packs na na-prepare ng ating SSLG officers. So ngayon aalamin natin, paano ba nila ito pinrepare? Saan ba nagmula ang ganitong kalaking mga tulong na ipapamahagi din natin? Chairman, ikaw nang bahala magpaliwanag sa atin.
Yun na Heidi, pinakikita natin sa likod, masyadong maraming pinapak. Para kasi ito sa pamimigay natin sa ODH, sa ating mga...
Orani District Hospital.
Yes, maraming district hospital. At doon sa mga kapwa nating mag-aaral sa Rizal Institute, para sila ay mabigyan ng konting blessing na nawa ay makatulong sa kanila. At yung mga nabili natin sa Pure Gold, kahapon lang namili kami ng sobrang dami para naman kahit pa paano matulungan natin yung mga nasa hospital, sa hospital, mga kailangan, yung mga kapwa nating mga taga-Orani na meron silang makakapitan kahit nasa gitna sila ng kagipitan at yung mga estudyante natin na nangangailangan. Yun nga, sa tulong-tulong ng bawat isa sa Jose Rizal Institute ay nabibigyan natin ang mga nangangailangan ng blessing na to.
Okay, so pagkapasok ko nga kanina dito sa SSLG office, agad bumungad sa akin itong groceries na to, pati yung sets, tsaka yung mga napack na ng ating officers. Actually, na-overwhelm ako, Ulixes, kasi hindi ko in-expect na ganito karami na yung nape-prepare ninyo. So, paano kayo nag-prepare for this one? How did you fund this project? Saan kayo nakihingi ng tulong kung meron ba? Based on my experience as well, traditional na rin na humihingi kayo ng tulong sa bawat mag-aaral, na nagpapadala kayo ng, yung kaya lang naman dalhin ng mga estudyante natin everyday for a week yun. Ay, hindi, parang ilan lang sa isang linggo, no? Yung pinadadala ninyo. Ulixes, dagdag ko lang din dun sa sinabi mong maaari pang madagdagan yung food na ibabahagi natin in the future. Napansin ko rin dito kanina yung mga laruan, especially yung mga stuffed toy na I am sure galing din sa kapwa natin Rizalians. So, kukwentuhan tayo dito ni Ulixes about sa toys na ito. Ito yung sinasabi ko, Rizalians, na I am sure very familiar naman kayo since makikita naman natin ito sa school grounds lang natin. So, Chairman, ano ba ang inspiration natin about this one?
Sa mga regalong ito, sa mga used toys na ito, galing din sa mga Rizalian natin na sa pag-aambagan nila, sa paglalagay nila ng toys na nakalagay lamang ito sa ating ground para makita naman nila na ipapamigay natin ito sa mga bata. Siyempre, hindi lang puro matatanda ang nasa ODH. So, pati na rin yung mga bata at bigyan rin natin sila ng onting mga laruan para sa kanilang kasiyahan naman. At maging maayos yung kanilang kalagayan doon kahit pa paano maging masaya rin.
So, toys, food, and other things na talagang na-contribute natin for this project ng SSLG ay maaabangan nating maipamahagi on December 21 and as well as December 17. At ayan ang dapat nating abangan from our SSLG officers.
At dagdag ko lang, Haidy, meron pa pala kaming parating sa, siguro sa mga susunod na araw, yung aming mga tinapay para naman na mas marami pang makikinabang sa aming pamimigay.
So kung ano ang nakikita natin na to, madadagdagan pa siya.
Madadagdagan
sa mga
pa po.
susunod. Okay.
Opo.
Kanina, Resilience, natanong ko si Ulix about sa challenges na na-encounter na niya through the process ng kanyang leadership. Pero alam naman natin na hindi naman tayo makaka-encounter ng challenges kung walang magagandang bunga.
Tama.
At narito na tayo sa part na yan. Yuli, kwentuhan mo na kami ng mga naging past activities ninyo nitong mga nakakaraang buwan.
Sige, simula po tayo sa October.
Okay.
Na kung saan ginawa namin yung sinasabi namin ng mga plataforma. Magsimula po tayo doon sa Rizal Parking. Doon po sa Rizal Parking, talagang nilagyan natin mga linya, yung mga pinagpaparadahan ng mga sasakyan ng ating mga teachers, mga students. Siyempre, lalagyan natin ng sticker para may pagkakakilanlan sila na taga Jose Rizal Institute sila at pwede natin silang papasukin. Iyon ay exclusive lamang sa mga faculty, staffs, and student.
Yung mga students na meron din pong lisensya.
Ayan,
Ginawin
may lisensya.
natin. May mga lisensya.
Mahalaga po yan, tama po. Para maging organisado din po tayong school at sumunod po tayo sa batas na ipinapatupad. Sumunod po na activity namin ay yung black and white ribbon na kung saan ay makikita nyo naman sa mga pinto ninyo na nilalagay talaga namin. No? Yung pag-ikot namin araw-araw, by duty kasi yun. So, bali meron kaming U-team at L-team. Kumbaga si Vice at ako, Chairman, na mag-iikot sa after class tuwing 5:15 p.m. So, doon namin chinecheck lahat ng room kung malinis ba o hindi ba naglinis ng cleaners. Oo.
Sumbong kay teacher.
Sumbong kay teacher yan. Pero, hindi na namin paparatingin sa advisor. Kami na ang magde-decide kung ilalagay na namin ang white ribbon or black ribbon. Ang white ribbon ay para sa malinis. Ang black ribbon ay para sa maruming room. So, sa ngayon naman, na-stop yun dahil sa sobrang dami ng project na ginagawa. Mahirap pagsabay-sabayin. Pero, ang masaya doon, maiiba na natin ang kulay. Nag-improve na ang ating black and white ribbon. So, ano na siya? Green and red flag.
Green and red flag?
Oo, para makasunod din tayo sa uso. So, green and red flag ang ating ipinalit. So, abangan nyo yan sa next year na pag-break ng ating school year.
So, sa isang taon, magsilabas ang mga green flag.
Red flag.
Red flag. So,
Hindi na tao. Kung hindi, room na.
Hindi pala tao.
Oo, room na. Sino ba ang green flag? So, bali kung malalagyan namin ng green flag ang room na to, lahat ng tao sa loob ng
Green
room
flag na ba?
Doon naman sa kabilang room, red flag. Sa buong nag-aaral dun sa loob ng room, red flag yun.
So, Rizalite, sikapin natin na lahat po tayo, green flag.
Antayin niya. Antayin niya, ha?
Yes.
So, sunod naman natin, yung community engagement namin. Biglaan lang din kasi bagyo. So, nararanasan namin yung kahirapan kapag bagyo. Siyempre, nakapag-ugnayan kami sa mga government official natin na nagpunta tayo diyan sa evacuation center sa may palengke.
And I heard ito ay yung nung panahon na nasalanta tayo ng Bagyong Christine.
Oo, yun. Kay Bagyong Christine tayo, nung panahon na yun, hindi nagdalawang isip ang SSLG na tumulong doon sa mga nasalanta na yon. At umagri naman ang lahat na tumulong kami kahit bagyo. Pumunta kami doon sa evacuation center para magpakain ng ating mga mahal na taga-Orani at para malaman din nila na kaisa nila ang Jose Rizal Institute sa panahon ng kalamidad. Ayun ang mahalagang maibigay natin, maipahiwatig natin sa kanila na ang Jose Rizal Institute ay kilala din sa maraming alumni, tama? So dapat yung mga alumni natin na galing dito sa school, alam nilang tayo rin ay tumutulong sa loob at labas ng ating paaralan. Yun ang mahalaga. Magtulungan tayo kahit nag-graduate ka na dito, kahit na nandito ka, matulungan natin ang mga bawat isa. Wala naman tayong pinipili kung anong buhay mo. Kung mataas ka ba, baba ka ba, saka nag-aral, saka nagtapos, sa Jose Rizal Institute, maibibigay naman natin yung tamang pagkalinga sa bawat isa.
Kumbaga, ang gusto mong maiparating ay paglabas natin ng eskwelahang ito ay natutuhan natin kung paano maging kaagapay ng isa't isa sa panahon ng mga pangangailangan.
Ayun yung natin.
That's what I really admire sa ating mga kapwa Rizalians at sa mga taong patuloy na tumutulong para ma-achieve natin yung ganyang mindset at goal.
At dagdag ko lang, may papasalamat din ako sa tulong-tulong ng ating mga estudyante at mga teacher na kung hindi dahil sa kanila, hindi namin magagawa ang mga project na ginagawa natin ngayon sa loob ng school. At yung mga officers natin na nagpapakahirap, pero sa kanila ay masarap naman na makatulong sa ating kapwa mag-aaral. Happy pagod ang tawag doon kasi masaya naman kami na nakakatulong sa kapwa natin. Pagod pero successful yung mga project na nagagawa.
Okay, Ulix. Nabanggit mo na sa amin yung mga naging past activities ninyo na talagang successful naman. Nabanggit mo na rin yung itong magaganap pa lang na gift giving. Ngayon, doon naman tayo sa mas future pa.
Yun.
Ano pa ba yung mga future activities ninyo at yung mga dapat pa namin abangan next year?
Ang aabangan natin ay yung fun run natin for foundation. So, yun yung pinaka iniintay ng lahat.
Yes, pinaka-aabangan natin yan,
Pinaka-aabangan
Rizalians, for our 86th year na.
Tsaka dati, ang lang color fun run.
Okay.
Pero ngayon, mas gusto namin at pagpaplanuhan namin ay mas madagdagan pa ng
Ano na yan?
maraming, siguro pwede may bubble tayo, bubble fun run, color fun run, at mas marami pang ibang obstacle na pwede nyo daanan para mas maging memorable yung ating gaganating fun run. At dagdag ko na rin yung mga plataforma na hindi namin natapos ngayong taon, next year sana ay magawa na namin.
Tulad ng?
Tulad ng inaabangan nilang special cubicle,
Oo
tulad ng
nga.
inaabangan nilang parking for bike,
Okay.
tulad din ng marami pang iba na inaabangan nila.
Na to be announced pa.
To be announced pa.
Na makikita natin.
At yan ay pinagpaplanuhan na namin ngayon pa lamang taong ito para sa susunod na taon ay magawa na namin yung mga dapat naming ma-implement na project.
Mr. Chairman, we're almost done. Almost! Kasi syempre, meron pa kaming gustong marinig from you. Tulad nga ng nabanggit ko kanina, isa ka ng veterano pagdating sa leadership, pagdating sa ganitong field or career. Kasi napakarami mo ng tayo, since 7th grade, nandito tayo sa GRI, at now grade 12, marami na tayong nasaksihan ng mga leader. Marami na tayong naramdaman na mga or marami na tayong na-experience na platforms nila, na impacts nila sa school at sa ating students. Ikaw, since grade 10, pinasok mo ng mundo ng SSLG, ang career na ito, marami ka na rin na nakasama, nakasalamuha.
Madami.
At marami ka na rin na-contribute sa school natin. Ngayon, ito ang tanong ko. As a graduating student, grade 12 student, na lilisan or iiwan or aalis na sa school na talagang napamahal na sa atin talaga. Ilang taon din, ano yung legacy na gusto mong iwan, na gusto mong tumatak dito sa Jose Rizal Institute Orani?
Yan, magandang tanong. So, sa akin kasi, ang pinakamahalaga talaga, hindi yung material, hindi rin yung makakita, kung hindi yung ugali na dapat ma-adapt ng school na to. Na yung natutunan ko sa school na to, na maging disiplinado, maging magalang sa lahat, maging maayos. Kumbaga, hindi ka dapat makapagkompetensya sa lahat eh. Kung ano ka, dapat iyon ka. At dapat malaman din ng iba na hindi ka lang basta estudyante. Meron kang talento. Tulad ko, gusto kong iwan ko sa kanila na marami tayo nakakasalamuha dyan, tama. Pero hindi lang sila dapat iyan tignan. Kumbaga, makakarating din sila sa kung anong meron ako. Makakarating din sila sa kung anong narating ko. So, dapat, ang gusto kong maiwan sa kanila ay yung paniniwala na meron pa silang magagawang mabuti. At yun yung sinabi ng ating pambansang bayani na ang kabataan ay pag-asa ng bayan. Ngayon kasi nawawala. So gusto ko, sa termino ko, kaming mga officers, ay ibalik ang pag-asa na yon na dapat ay manggaling sa ating paaralan. Iyon yung gusto naming mangyari, na sa kabataan ay magmula ang pag-asa ng pagiging mabuting kabataan sa panahon ngayon. Iyon yung gusto naming iwan. Hindi ako lang, kundi hindi kaming SSLG officers. Sa pamumuno ng aming advisor na si Sir Lawrence, sa kanya kami natuto kung paano mamuno ng maayos at paano maging iisang pamilya sa pamumuno sa isang tahanan. Ito yung tahanan namin, ang Jose Rizal Institute, na kung saan kami ang magsisilbing tagapamaayos. Kung kami ang magsisilbing peace officer, tagapangalaga ng estudyante at ng facilities ng Jose Rizal Institute.
And with that, Yuli, bigyan mo naman ng mensahe ang ating mga taga-subaybay, mga nanonood na Rizalians. Any message for them?
Message ko lang naman sa inyo, Rizalian, yung maging mabuti ang lagi dapat ninyong gawin. Mabuti sa kapwa, mabuti sa lahat ng gawain. Hindi naman natin tinitignan ito kung gaano kakatalino, kung gaano kakayaman, kung gaano kakahirap. Lahat ng pag-iisip natin ay pantay-pantay. May choice naman tayong gumawa ng mabuti. At lagi nating piliin ang paggawa ng mabuti para tayo ay laging nakakatanggap naman ng blessing, nakakatanggap naman ng kailangan nating matanggap sa kapwa natin. Kaya nga, di ba, may sinasabi, huwag mong gawin sa kapwa mo kung ayaw mong gawin sa'yo. Kaya dapat, ang paggawa natin sa kapwa ay laging kabutihan para malaman natin kung paano naman ang ginagawa natin kabutihan sa kanila, ay sila naman ang magbalik sa atin. At mararanasan natin yon kapag patuloy tayong gumagawa ng kabutihan sa atin. Yun po yung iiwan ng SSLG officers. At sana po ay maging maayos ang ating pag-alis sa taong ito. Maging maayos ang pamumunog ito. At sa susunod pang mga panahon, ay maranasan ninyo ang maayos na pamumuno sa Jose Rizal Institute. Thank you po.
Rizalians showcase their talents, creativity, and wit in various contests, such as puppetry, debate, and spelling bee in the English Olympics last December 4 to 6. Emmanuel Diesta of 9 Einstein won a silver medal, while Carl Nathaniel Rabago and Luis Velasquez of 7 Rizal nabbed bronze medals at the Hong Kong International Science Olympiad 2024. With the leadership, the math department head, Mr. Harry G. Kiambao, and coaches select students from grade 7 to 12 to took part in the International Vedic Mathematics Olympiad 2024 on November 30, held at the Orani National High School, Maine. Irene Suzuki and Hart Bukiran, grade 8 and 11, respectively secured the first and third place awards at the 2024 Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Poster Making Contest held at the Orani Multipurpose Gym last December 12. RI Orani volleyball boys and girls prepared to compete at the 2024 Cluster Meet on December 21 and 22.
At yun na nga mo, nagbabagat, mainit na balita ngayong Desyembre. Imagine, first weeks pa lang yan ng December, pero sobra na hitik na yung activities ng school natin, mapa-school-based man yan or outside our school. And we have here our Senior International Affairs Correspondent, Christine Jaecee Capati, to share her thoughts and to discuss these achievements with us.
If you Rizalians can remember, nagsimula yung December natin with the English Olympics, diba? Karoon tayo ng iba't ibang competition dun sa English Olympics where the Rizalians showcase their talents, their creativity, or kung gano'n nila ka-love yung English and yung literature. At syempre, hindi lang ayun yung naging event natin for December. Nagkaroon din tayo ng events for poster making contest, andyan din yung Math Vedic, and alam natin na December is the end of the year. So, eto na yung huling month na mostly yung mga tao gusto nang magpahinga. Pero tayong mga Rizalians, humakayod.
Yes.
Humahataw pa rin tayo.
And to add on that, career release lang ng panalo sa ating Hong Kong International Science Olympiad kung saan nakapag-uwi po tayo ng 2 bronze at 1 silver medal. So, to think na 2 grade 7 students and isang grade 9 student po ang nanalo, sobrang nakaka-proud po yan, Tatak Rizalians.
Young talent.
Yes, sobra. So, congratulations po Science Department at sa ating winners. And another one, yung sports, banggitin na rin natin. Suportahan po natin ang ating mga atleta. Kagaya ng nabanggit, December 21 to 22 is the cluster meet. Yes.
At syempre, hindi pa dyan nagtatapos ang mga activities
Hindi pa
natin
ba?
for December.
Hindi pa.
Heidi. Because I know that you had a talk with Mr. Ulixes Guinto, ang chairman ng SSLG, about their past activities this school year. At syempre, yung kanilang plano for Christmas. So, Heidi, kwentuhan mo naman kami. I-walk through nyo kami sa naging talk nyo with Mr.
Okay.
Ulixes.
So, kagaya nga nung napanood natin or napakinggan, Resilience, hindi naman kami nag-focus lang sa December projects nila. Talagang ako, binake sure ko na mabalikan natin yung past activities nila, pati yung future activities na alam kong inaabangan din naman nating lahat. So, narinig natin yung plano nila sa mga natitira nilang plataforma at agenda. And another thing itong episode natin, nakita ko to as a channel for the SSLG organization to be at least, to be seen, di ba? Kasi tayo, alam natin, kilala natin sila na labas dito, labas dyan ng activities. Release here, release there, ng projects, ng activities, and
so,
all of those.
Your talk with your Ulixes, pinapakita nito yung effort behind their works.
Yes.
Kung gaano nila ito pinaghirapan.
Yes, ayun yung na-feature ng conversation ko na to with Ulixes. Kasi tulad nga nung nabanggit ko ulit, puro activities. Pero ano ba yung mangyayari sa likod ng activities na yun?
What's behind the scenes?
We were so curious. Pero ngayon nakita natin kung paano ba sila ma-unite, kung paano ba sila mag-prepare, and kung paano ba talaga nila pinapakita yung pagmamahal nila sa resilience, of course, na pinararamdam nila through these activities and efforts. So, with that, gusto ko pong i-congratulate ang SSLG organization, especially the advisors, Sir Lawrence, at yung officers. So, we appreciate you guys and we are very grateful to have hardworking officers.
Yes, thank you so much for your hard work. I'm sure na na-appreciate ng mga Rizalians yung trabaho ninyo.
At hindi dyan magtatapos kasi hindi lang ako ang nagkaroon ng chance to have a talk with a significant person because alam ko, ikaw rin, with Mr. Shawn Patrick Higgins. Rizalians, alam ko, familiar na kayo sa pangalan na yan. Sir Shawn. Kasi, if you guys can remember, Sir Shawn was our Fulbright Fellow na nagkaroon ng chance to teach us here at GRI. So, taga-US po siya. Yes, from the USA siya. And then, in 2023, lumipad siya patungo rito sa atin. Nagstay po siya sa campus natin at nagturo, nag-share ng mga kaalaman niya about animation. So, JC had a talk with him. And pasilip naman, ano ba yung mga pinag-usapan ninyo?
Yun nga mga Rizalians, I had a talk with Sir Shawn. We talked about animation, coding, his passion about teaching, and I've learned a lot from him actually. Hindi lang about animation but also about life. Marami akong na-take away from him.
And doon pa lang, ako sobrang interested na akong marinig pa at mapanood ang naging usapan ninyo ni Sir Shawn. At alam kong kayo rin Rizalian. So, patatagalin pa ba natin? Kailan ba namin pwedeng marinig yan?
Patatagalin pa ba natin?
Ngayon na?
Ngayon na!
Ngayon na!
Hello, Sir Shawn. Good morning. I'm Christine Jaecee Capati, a grade 12 humanities student and also a reporter for the Rizalite. So, how are you today, Sir Shawn?
I'm doing great. And it's Christine?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing great, Christine. Thank you for asking.
that's awesome. I heard that you celebrated your birthday earlier this week. So, happy belated birthday, Sir Shawn. And
thank
welcome back to JRI, the Sarisal Institute, Arani. Now, we know you, so the Rizalians know you, and we love you here. But for those who don't, for our viewers who don't know you, could you please kindly introduce yourself to us? Tell us a little more about yourself. Who is
Sure.
Sir Shawn?
Yeah. So my name is Shawn Patrick Higgins, or Mr. Higgins in the U.S. and Sir Shawn at JRI. And I am a computer science and technology teacher. It's also like kind of media arts, so kind of digital art as well. And I have been teaching. This is my 15th year teaching in the U.S. I also after university, what kind of started me into teaching was I taught for 1 year abroad in Changsha, Hunan, in central China, and that was just teaching English after university. And after that year, and I did that, I came back to the US, and I was like, well, I like technology, and my degree was in video and photo, and I started teaching video and photo after school classes for maybe about 2 years. And then one of the schools 15 years ago that I taught an after school class, they were like, hey, we want a computer science and creative computer lab technology teacher. Would you be interested? And I started, and I've been doing it for 15 years now. And JRI knows me because I had got a teacher. It was a short-term Fulbright to attend in January of 2023 at JRI, where we did gamification with some of the other teachers, the science teacher, the English teacher, and also working with Sir Dem, doing some of the animation.
I see. So 15 years is a very long time teaching.
I guess so. In some ways, I feel like I just started the other day. Like it feels like, oh yeah, like was that a
It
year
feels just
ago?
like
Just a
yesterday.
moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Oh,
guess my beard, I'm starting to look like Santa Claus.
yeah.
So I feel like I've been doing this for a while, I guess.
Yeah, so you've mentioned that you visited JRI last year, 2023. So could you tell us a little more? How was it working with our teachers and our students?
Yeah, I think it was a really wonderful experience. JR was probably as an adult, probably one of the friendliest, most joyful experiences I've had. I was there for just around 5 weeks, so it was very quick overall. But we packed a ton of work in with the students and teachers during the weekdays, and then Sir Zeke and some of the other teachers, we went on kind of cultural outings each weekend, and it was kind of so that was pretty much the visit. So we were working during the weekday, and then on the weekends we were kind of doing that cultural exchange. I know Sir Zeke had been on a Fulbright himself a year before, so he was he had a lot of knowledge and empathy for the experience. So he worked very hard to make it as enjoyable as possible.
So, Sir Shawn, what's your favorite experience here? Or what's your favorite memory here in JRI or in the Philippines? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to really say because there were so many things we
There's
did
a
so
lot.
quick.
Yeah.
It was so much kind of packed in. I really, in that single month, I feel like I did more touring and the kind of role of the tourist than I have in like the last 4 years combined in that 1 month. So there are some really large trips. We did a day trip to Manila with a bunch of, I think we got up and left at 4 a.m, and we got back at like midnight, and we just went all day long, running between all the different kind of cultural places, the National Art Museum, history museums. We went to the American Graveyard, and I was looked for some relatives.
Yeah.
But it was just so much going on.
Yeah, so you've visited a lot of places here in the Philippines, and I hope you enjoyed. I'm sure you enjoyed, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there was also a bunch in Bataan. The hilltop with the cross, Mount
That's Mount Samat,
yeah.
Mount Samat. Yeah.
And that was with we visited with some of the other teachers and walked to the top, and listened to some of the history and went to the history museum there, as well as some other ones. So there was so much as far as that. At JRI itself, working with the students was a lot of fun, but there was a few nights, I think there was 3 nights, that with teachers and students afterwards, we went, I think it was on the main road, maybe a few blocks down, and there was live music and a bunch of food,
that's our food court,
stalls.
yeah.
Yeah, and that food court, it was just a lot of fun, just hanging out, and the kind of a nice end to a good day, working hard and just having some delicious food and listening to music.
Yeah, I remember I was grade 10 at that time, and I remember everyone was bustling with excitement for this new foreign teacher. Yeah, so going back, Sir Shawn, how do you feel now that you're back in teaching our students alongside Mr. Demras Ibarbia, although it's done online? So how do you feel about it now that you're back?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, at the time when I left, do something else, and for some of the younger students at the time, you said that, this was 2 years ago, so you were in 10th grade. Traditionally, while I also work with high school students, most of my experience as a teacher had been with middle school. And I did feel a little bad that I did not get to do much with the middle school students when I was there. So while the animation class is, I believe, 11th and 12th grade, again, it was a neat way to kind of come back to some of the students that I didn't get to work with much. The class is also fairly small compared to many of the other classes at JRI for those in the technology and who are doing the animation. So it was just a kind of a fun way to kind of reconnect and also maybe do a bit more of the same of some of the same projects. So in the Padlet, where some students are turning in their work, there is still the work that the students turned in 2 years ago. So I could use some of the JRI students' work as an example for the work we were doing this time as well. Obviously, I can only, it is not the same when you are in the class and you can show things and jump around. It's much more, I really love being in person and having that personal interaction. But this is kind of the best we can do from so far away. And so I have a couple of videos that I recorded, and then Sir Dem kind of watches that, and he was there learning the lesson. So he's done most of the lessons before, so he can really help teach it. So my videos are almost just a guide or a project video for the students. And then Sir Dem can kind of adjust it how he sees best. The students are turning in their work. When they're saving their animations, they're putting on the Padlet, and I have access to all of those. I set those up so I can kind of jump in and comment and give suggestions. So it's not the same as being there, but we're hoping to create something slightly similar, or doing our best to.
So, Sir Shawn, the students submit their work in Padlet, and then that's where you give your feedback. Am I right?
So it's almost like an online digital gallery, right? So
Is
it's a way
it an app or?
Well, it's just it's a website. We could use Google Slide if we wanted to, but I have access through my school. I have Padlet, and that works pretty well for showcasing animations. It makes it almost like a group Instagram where you can like heart and comment on each other's work. So for students showing work, animation or digital work virtually, it works pretty well.
So earlier you mentioned that when you were teaching personally or in person, you can jump around, and don't worry, Sir Shawn, I can feel your energy even through the screen. I'm sure your students also felt that energy while you were teaching them during the orientation. So you've mentioned earlier that you've been teaching for 15 years, right? 15 years. Yep. So I'm sure that you've already taught a lot of classes, taught a lot of students, and inspired them, right? Now, Sir Shawn, I'm curious, what inspired you to teach animation, and what keeps you passionate about it?
I think that's a very nice question. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think what I was saying before, right, is I did not actually study to become a teacher.
Oh.
It's not something that I knew that I wanted to do. It was only after going to university and learning a lot of the kind of creative or artistic ways of doing a lot of creating and making things that I kind of realized that I loved making things, but I loved helping other people make things even more, if that makes sense. And especially when working with other adults, sometimes people will hire you to do digital work. I found that the joy I got out of helping students or younger students kind of discover these styles of making, whether it's animation or through code or through photography or through videography. I don't do as much as that lately, but I used to teach video classes and photography classes. That helping people discover and learn a new way of communicating and creating in an artistic way was something that I just got personally. I just felt so much better about that. I've always been a bit of a sponge in a way, where I kind of take the energy of the room around me. And I think that's one of the reasons I was always very excited by middle school So that's the age of kind of sixth grade to eighth grade in the US, but maybe around like, 9 to like 13, that range, because young adults they're finding the things that are going to be their hobbies for the rest of their lives often. And so when you can kind of show a new skill to develop or to get interested in at that age, obviously you can learn new skills as an adult or in college or in high school. But I just think that being exposed to and learning these different types of creating early, it can really create a good life path. If you can find what you're passionate about early enough, and you can commit yourself to it and start learning even earlier, I think there's just so much value in that, where people can kind of really get a sense of like, oh, this is what I want to do. And if
Mhm.
I wasn't exposed to it, I might not know till much later. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's good to try new things, huh?
Yeah.
You've so basically you've got into teaching animation because you want to help the students.
Yeah, so
And
that's just one. So animation, for me, I got more into animation when I started learning how to teach coding. I think that, a lot of people, when first learning computer programming, it feels,
Mhm.
or it is often taught in a very dry mathematical way, where it's an abstract science. But I think that teaching coding is like teaching cooking, right? You shouldn't talk about cooking in a dry or abstract or boring way. You get excited about teaching cooking by making meals, by doing the preparation, by like preparing the ingredients, and then when you share it with others, when you share the thing you made, and it brings other people joy. I feel like I've heard people talk about cooking and preparing a meal for their family, and they give that meal, and the family's like, "Oh, this is the best thing you've done." That students can have that experience through coding, but you've got to kind of you make animation with code, or you make a program with code, or websites, or a game. There's all kinds of interactions you can make. So I think that I got more into teaching animation because I needed to learn how to be a good computer science teacher, which is maybe a little funny,
Yeah.
but I think it's just a way to make
Mm.
computer science appeal. You can teach animation as just doing animation. But I tend to like to teach animation, especially when we get to the intermediate projects. Most of my animation projects start to involve more and more code and interaction, or that you're using programming languages to animate certain elements to create interactions.
I've actually watched the Zoom class of your class with ICT, the orientation. And what I like about it is that you're teaching them how to use free web tools. Am I right?
Yeah, and that was a big part of what I was trying to teach at JRI,
Mm-hmm.
and at home in the US. I've always taught at schools. I grew up in a school that we didn't have much, there was not a lot of money for the school. And many of my friends and students, they didn't have a lot of money to buy things. And I've often noticed that there are some like technology schools in the world, but they're usually very small, and often in a very well-to-do neighborhood. And I think something that I tried to talk about is when you can share this, more and more there are open source tools. So it's tools that were created, but they don't have a monetary license. They're share alike, that it can be copied, or you can even go into the programming and alter it yourself, as long as you credit the original maker. And
Mm-hmm.
with some of these tools, for example, Wix, um, I think that just creates a really great ecosystem of people who can make, and that it doesn't cost money, that there aren't the limitations. I know some students can only access things in school, but with WIC, if you were able to get a older tablet or a laptop at home, or maybe at your uncle's or a grandparents, if you just have a connection to the internet, you're able to kind of use this. It's not just a school thing, right? It's anywhere, and I think that will become more and more true as technology continues to grow, especially with artificial intelligence. There's a lot of really exciting possibilities how
Mm-hmm.
youth can make going into the future.
They cannot only use this, what they learn from your class in school, but also further in life, maybe their future job. And I find that really awesome, and anyone can learn it since, as you've said, there are free web tools, right? So, Sir Sean, so what inspired you to teach animation is for people to have more access or to have more creativity, right?
Yeah, I think that that's true.
Yeah.
I did mention before that I started teaching animation more as
Mm.
one of the ways to get into coding
Mm-hmm.
and computer science a bit more. But the animation really appeals to me just as I've ever since I was a baby almost, like if I was like 4 or 5, I was started drawing. I've just always been very artistic
Oh,
and
so
always
you've
loved
you've been
creating.
really passionate about it ever since.
Yeah, and that's personal, but I think it's important to find happiness in your life, to connect the things you're personally passionate about and try to embody them in your professional life. I feel like that
And
just will create a much more satisfied life, right?
and you
And
are
so just
happy with what you're doing right now.
yeah, and that's,
Yeah.
with whether it's animation, uh, I mean, we do pixel art, and so we do,
Mhm.
and we in doing pixel art animation, that's usually making assets or making like characters or elements that you can use in a game or on a website or in a different animation. Um, while with JRI, I am not teaching some of those more intermediate and advanced classes where we start to use the elements that they've made as part of a game, right? And that gets more into the programming. But I think in learning animation, it's just learning, in the most broadest sense, it's just learning how to make things look good.
Sorry?
Animation is specific to movement,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I think just creating things with digital art, we're touching on a lot of those things as well. Especially for many students, so much of their life is in the digital space now and representing themselves digitally. So knowing how to make that look as good as possible, knowing how to make it sound as good as possible are just important general life skills going forward too.
So, as you mentioned earlier, you've been teaching for 15 years and have taught a lot of different classes. And you've also mentioned about the things that you've been teaching them. But what skills do you hope for your students to gain from your classes? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I started to just touch on it. There was a phrase that I've talked about because especially now, more with younger students, but if you have any younger siblings or cousins, uh, you always have the young child who's like, why? But why? Why am I learning this? Why? Why? And they ask why again and
Yeah.
again. And my answer to it is like, well, it's important to, in my classes, you want to, there's 4 columns that are holding up the class, right? And that first one is you want to make it look good, you want to make it sound good, you want to make it work well. And then the fourth one is you want to learn how to show it off right to the people that matter to you. And in a way, this is digital presentation, if you're thinking about it at a very high level. But learning to make it look good is your digital art skills, learning Photoshop, learning Photopea, learning animation, learning to make it sound good. I always teach audio editing as parts of my classes, not at the one at JRI, but I think it's very important to try to learn how to present your audio well. It's important in a video like this or in something else.
Yes.
Our tools don't always work. Right before that we started, my mic broke, so I've got a second mic that's not nearly as good as my professional one, but my professional one broke. So you want to learn how to kind of troubleshoot those things, but you want to make it work well, and that's code, right? Because the code is how things work digitally. So there's audio editing, visual editing, code, and then showing it off right is just those presentation skills. So that's a recording video, the look, the lighting, turning it into a GIF. We talked about Padlet before, but sometimes it's
Yes.
how do you share things digitally? Well, it'd be nice if, everyone can put their animation up on their monitor in the computer lab and maybe walk around the room. And I do that in my in-person classes. But for classes that you don't have that, can we show things off virtually? One of the bonuses in my classes is every project that a student creates, there's usually that visual artifact. We do a quick screencast, which is recording a video of your screen, or sometimes that's the animation or part of the animation. Sometimes that would be a website. Sometimes that might be a few seconds of the game. Um, And then but just to take that video and then turn it into a GIF, submit it to me for my projects or to Padlet. But the thing is, if you do that with every project at the end of the year, most students will have 30 GIFs of the projects they made all year, and we just put them, and that's a portfolio. And it's you've already made all the content of your portfolio over the year, and if they take the class again, that portfolio gets bigger and bigger. But then they can just take out a Google slideshow and show off all these animations on just a few pages. So I always try to make my classes in a way that can be useful for the student later if they want to look back at what they did. I feel like that's a very important thing that some teachers may neglect, is trying to make your class as a teacher easy for the student to return to when they want. And they might not want, but some do. I know as an adult, I find something I made in 10th grade or in 8th grade, I was like, oh wow, that, and or if you wanted to show it off for a job later, that's just a very important skill to kind of keep doing that again and again, to collect all the things you make, so you can easily present your skills. Is a very important meta skill on top of everything else.
Well, me personally, I don't really have that much background about animation or coding, but talking to you, it really sounds interesting, and I might get into it in the future. Yeah, so I think that not just animators, but also us that doesn't have a background about animation, can use it in our everyday life to present something to make it look good. Okay, so Sir Shawn, for my last question, um, so do you have any advice for aspiring animators? I'm sure you've inspired a lot of our audience, such as me. You've inspired me about animation. So do you have any advice for our aspiring animators or teachers of technology at our school and our other viewers as well?
Yeah, well, I think that, teaching technology and animating are very different things. But I think one thing that I would want to stress to anyone as advice, and this is advice I give to students in the United States, is it's all about practice. And I think it's an important thing that is really misunderstood by a lot of students, especially younger students, is that they see school as very separate from a future adult professional life. That, like, I'm young, what I do now doesn't really matter. Maybe if I get lucky, I go to university, then things start to matter. But I think that that's wrong, because it's the experiences that you accumulate in your life. It's just the amount of experience you have that really is the base for skill. And I think, I kind of make the joke that was, if you started learning how to animate, or you started learning how to do some coding in 7th grade, and you just you keep working with it, maybe a hobby, take one class, but you just keep building a little bit. And then there's an adult, 25. They worked for 2 years, but then they changed jobs, and they're like, man, I want to start to learn how to animate. I want to start to learn how to code. How many years of experience does that 25-year-old have versus how many years of experience does that 11th grader have? That 11th grader has 4 years experience doing something. That 25-year-old has 0. Now, they might be able to learn a little bit faster, but especially if you are passionate about something and you start early, and maybe you go to university for it, maybe you don't. As long as you keep working on it, you keep building those skills, when you can find a job, those skills and that experience really showcase itself. You'll see someone, and you meet a young student who's only 22, but they've been doing something for 7 years, and their skill is just so impressive. But it's the same as that 25-year-old working for 7 years. And I think that students, when they're younger, don't realize that you can start gaining the really important professional experience. It doesn't need to be when you're an adult. It's just about the experience and knowledge that you have, which is individual to all of us. So I guess that's my advice. Find what you love and stick to it. And you can build up that experience, and it's just as relevant as a student in middle school or high school as it is as an adult.
So the little things that we do are building blocks for the future. So what we do now really affects our future. So even if it's just a little, right?
I wish I realized that earlier. I took some extra classes when I was in high school. I went to the university and took some student classes, but I didn't really connect it in a really concrete way. And so I think I did pretty good with it as myself as a student, but I feel like I could have thought about it. And if I realized just how precisely connected it is, I might have approached things a little differently. So that's just something as an old man, I try to say to all my young students.
So you've realized it later on in life. But it's thanks to you that I realized it now, and I've learned so much from our talk, even if it's just a few minutes. I've really learned a lot. So thank you, Sir Shawn. Thank you so much for your time, for being our guest in the spotlight, and we hope to see you again and work with you in the future. So Merry Christmas, Sir Shawn. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, and thank you. That was an excellent
Christmas.
interview.
Thank you so much.
Wow, what a superb conversation, Jaecee. Congratulations.
Thank you, Haidy.
I have to agree with Sir Shawn. That was a really excellent interview.
Thank you.
So with that, we have to know what are your main takeaways from the interview.
So yes, Haidy, during our conversation, marami akong natutunan from Sir Shawn. Hindi lang about animation, but also about different aspects of life. Na-mention niya na yung main goal daw ng animation is for it to be presented beautifully. And alam naman natin na mayroong sining sa lahat ng bagay.
Wow.
Like, everything is a work of art.
Deep Tagalog right there.
Yeah. So it can be applicable to all aspects of life in life. And he also mentioned na to start doing things, even if it's just little things. Kasi yung mga maliliit na bagay na yon, ayun yung nagpa-pile up yon, naiipon yon, and then ayun yung nagiging building blocks natin.
Kumbaga steps.
Yes, ayun yung mga nagiging steps natin para ma-develop yung skills natin for our future din. So, we will benefit from it. So, kahit maliliit na bagay lang yan, just do it. And it will benefit us.
Remember that, Rizalite. So, ako naman ang mag-share. Kasi kahit ako, may natutuhan ako kay Sir Shawn. I mean, i-share ko na lang kung ano talaga yung hinahangaan ko about kay Sir Shawn. So, what I really like about him is his passion sa pagtuturo. Kasi naalala ko before, naka-attend ako nung parang film viewing yon ng students with him. So, may pinapanood siya sa aming movie. Tapos, ang sabi niya sa amin, ang gusto niya talagang tinuturuan ng mga bata ay yung mga nasa middle school. Kasi, ayun yung age na naghahanap tayo ng mga hobbies natin, nagkakaroon tayo ng interest. At ngayon, sa ginagawa niyang pagtuturo sa ating ICT students, nag-share siya ng maraming technological advancement and alternatives. Nag-share din siya ng mga bagay na pwede natin gamitin, like yung mga free web tools na mas nag-open ng way or mas nagbibigay ng way sa mga bata to explore more sa field na tinatahak nila. Diba?
So, ayun nga, Heidi, you mentioned about his passion. And kwento niya sa akin kanina that he's passionate about teaching animation because he wants to help the children or yung mga tao na walang access sa mga web tools na need pang bayaran. So, yeah, that's why he is teaching the students how to use free web tools para mas magkaroon tayo ng outlet for our creativity para ma-develop yung skills ng mga bata.
Sir Shawn, thank you so much once again for sitting down with us on that interview with Christine. We really enjoyed watching and listening to all of your words of wisdom. And now, you are really inspiring us to do more, to do better in life, not just in animation. So, thank you so much, Sir Shawn. And of course, makakalimutan ko ba naman, thank you so much, Christine, for being with us today. And let's do this again soon.
Of course, thank you to Heidi, and let's do it again soon.
And it's a wrap, Rizalians! This has been the Here and There episode of The Spotlight by the Rizalite. Have a great holiday season, God bless you all, and tara na sa JRI!